Are you struggling to pay for things like rent, utilities, and food? Well, millions of Americans have struggled over the past 12 months, and economists predict it is only going to get worse. Which is why in today's video we are going to discuss the upcoming $36 billion in a bailout coming from President Biden himself. We will also talk about how lawmakers are wanting to see the child tax credit payments come back to start in 2023. And I want to give you some daily news on what's going on regarding the government funding bill and the National Defense Authorization Act. So we will get to those later on in this video. But here's what you need to know. 69% of Americans are currently struggling to pay for groceries. So if you are struggling to pay for food, you're not alone. Vanguard is also reporting that 401k hardship withdrawals have actually hit a record high. Now, even though they say that only 0.5% of people are taking out a hardship withdrawal, that is still substantial because it's 0.5% of people took this out in October of 2022. Now, when you factor in that there's more than 60 million Americans that have a 401k, that means that about 300,000 people took out a hardship withdrawal in October. Again, that's substantial because that means people are struggling in one way or another. And we've talked about this before, that other people are going to have to find ways to make money, ways to secure some form of a payment, because we can't just keep diving into credit card debt, especially if we continue to max out our credit cards. Well, that looks like we're already there because now more and more people are turning to their 401ks and other retirement accounts. And again, I say this, and I've said this before, dipping into your retirement is not the best thing to do, especially when we're at the bottom. We should be throwing more money back into it. But again, this isn't financial advice. Only do what you know you can do and can afford. Now, obviously, with more people getting into credit card debt, people can't afford to take money out of their homes because, well, they might not have any equity, or it's going to cost too much as far as a higher interest payment. But this is getting the attention of Congress. We now know that Senators Bill Cassidy, Shelley Moore Capito, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins are all open to passing legislation to help the American people. One of the big things that they can do is actually push legislation for the child tax credit payments to come back. And this seems like this is something that they really want to push for, because reports in 2021, they showed and they outlined how quickly child poverty dropped once the 6 months of the $250 or $300 child tax credit payment started coming out. This was really good news. And advocates say that this needs to come back quickly for the wellness of our nation's children. So we'll see what happens there. But again, it comes down to the numbers. And let's talk about these numbers, because this is what is critical. If the numbers don't match up from Republicans to Democrats, they will never get a deal done. But here's what we know. Democrats have actually pitched the idea of including the expanded child tax credit payments to Republicans. Well, what did Republicans come back with? Republicans said that we need to bring back the corporate tax breaks. Okay, that's nothing new. We knew that. We've known that for the past 2 weeks. But here's what is new. Republicans stated yesterday that Democrats supported the research and development tax credits in the past. So why would they be open to an exchange of the child tax credit payments for research and development credits when really they voted for this in the past? So the best option for Republicans is just to wait for 2023, and then they'll get that passed then. Now, that's an option, and that is on the table. But some Democrats say that Republicans just need to bring their initial offer to the table, and they can start negotiations. But here's where things get a little trickier. This is where Senate Democrats stated that they're willing to negotiate. But again, Republicans need to bring their initial offer to the table. According to Senate Democrat Cory Booker, he stated that Democrats are actually open to other credits as well, in addition to the research and development credits. But again, they don't want to come out and be the first one to offer anything. They want Republicans to ask first, then they will counter. Well, according to the reports, it also is indicating that Democrats are open to including the deductibility of interest costs and the renewed rule to allow capital expenditures to be written off in the year that the expense was occurred, as opposed to over time. Again, these are big credits. And think about this. Let's say you are a manufacturer and you buy a big piece of equipment. It costs you $150,000. Okay. Well, now, according to the law currently, it is, if you buy that $150,000 piece of equipment, again, I'm no tax expert, but let's say you have to write off that expense over 5 years. Well, you can only write off $30,000 per year. Okay, but if we can change that and we see that the rule to allow capital expenditures to be written off in just the first year, we could take $150,000 the first year as opposed to over 5 years. And so that's why businesses would rather do that, because they're more likely to invest back into their business if that's the case. So again, we're going to see what happens. But according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they are saying that these credits, they need to be approved before the end of the year. But again, that creates an issue because there's other groups like the Oxfam America and Teamsters that are urging Congress not even to cooperate. They say don't cooperate, as corporate America has made record profits this year and they don't need any additional tax breaks. So we'll see what happens from that side. But again, we're in the final weeks of 2022. If something's going to happen, it needs to happen very soon. And speaking of Teamsters, let's talk about how President Biden is actually going to be providing a bailout of $36 billion to the Central States Pension Fund. Now, this is coming from the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. And again, this is the problem with this. And we've heard this in the past. Republicans didn't want to support the American Rescue Plan. Okay, they didn't want to support it at all because they stated that this could potentially be a bailout to poorly run pensions and poorly run states. Well, guess what? It kind of is. According to these reports that are coming out today, this $36 billion is going to go to the Central States Pension Fund that desperately needs the money. This will benefit more than 350,000 truck drivers, warehouse workers, construction workers, and others. But without this bailout, the reports indicate that benefits would have been reduced by about 60%. A 60% reduction. That would have been huge and would have been devastating for over 350,000 workers. Now, this bailout also comes just 1 week after President Biden signed the legislation that blocked railroad workers from going on strike, or potentially on December 9th, which is actually tomorrow. So this is almost a benefit to the unions, right? But there's a lot of people that are going to benefit from this. Now, here are the states that have the largest number of workers who will benefit from this bailout. Michigan is going to see 40,300 workers benefit. Ohio, 39,900. Missouri, 27,800. Illinois, 25,000. Texas, 22,500. Wisconsin, 21,900. Indiana, 19,600. Minnesota, 19,300. Florida, 18,700 workers. And Tennessee, 14,200 workers are going to benefit from this $36 billion bailout. So that is some good news there. And the last thing that I want to address in this daily news report is what is going on with both leaders of the Senate, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Well, just the other day, they said that they are working to get a deal done when it comes to the government funding bill, which needs to happen very soon, and the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, here's what we know. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he said that both he and Mitch McConnell have agreed, they agreed, that they will work to get a year-long omnibus funding bill done. Well, right after Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said this, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell came out and said that the two sides are at a significant impasse. And he believes that the first order of business should be to pass the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. He said, and I quote, "In regards to government spending, time is ticking. We have not been able to agree on a top line yet," which means they're still working on the number, not just the pieces below it. They're still working on the top line number, which is crazy because we need to get a deal done. He also said, "It is likely we need to do a short-term CR into early next year." So there's not going to be an omnibus bill. We're not going to see that. The expectation is we will see a short-term continuing resolution, and that's how we're going to get through the next month to potentially 3 months. So we're going to see what happens moving forward, but what I can tell you is this $36 billion bailout, this is going to make many Republicans very upset. This fight to see the child tax credit payments included, well, this is ticking. The time's ticking on this as well, because this needs to be done before Republicans take control of the House of Representatives. If it's not, it doesn't mean it can't be done in 2023. It's just it makes it that much harder because Democrats are going to have to give a little bit more at that time. As of right now, they don't have to. But again, they really have less than 2 weeks to get something done. So we will see what happens. As always, as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. Again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.